Hi, I'm David Black. I'm a filmmaker in Melbourne, Australia. I also write most of the films, direct some of them, and act in all of them. I didn't know at first that I wanted to be in films. What happened was a friend who I knew from my band days. I was in a band called Darkness Visible. We'd actually already done about 8 music videos, and a friend who had a band said, "Would you like to be an extra in my movie?" I had no idea that he did movies, and I had no idea that he was actually bigger in movies than he was in music. So I rocked up to Cult Girls. Cult Girls is about to come out in about 3 months, and it's going to be seen on the screen at Monster Fest. So I rock up, and wow, I walked into a new world. Whereas I'd done music videos, I quite often had students borrowing equipment from RMIT and the various universities. This had people with equipment that I'd never seen before. I mean, it had lights that were on stands like 30 foot tall. It had John Fox, the armourer, with real guns with blanks. And I'm like a deer caught in the headlights at first. And I start meeting everybody that's on this shoot. The shoot went for a number of days, and I just fell in love with that magic. And before I knew it, the various people that were on that set who had seen that I behaved, they said, "Can you come and be an extra on my set?" So within the first month of doing this, I was on about 5 or 6 sets as an extra, and the next thing I'm bumped up to a featured extra. Then I've got lines in some of the films. And so that was like my entry into the industry. And that's about 3.5 years ago. And some people say, well, why didn't you do it 4.5, 5.5, 6.5 years ago? Because you were there, the people that you had filming your stuff worked on other shoots. Well, if you didn't know to ask the question, if you didn't know, that's why I wasn't doing it. And a second problem was that I had cancer. Mark's shoot was the very first shoot where I'd had enough energy to go out after work and be out somewhere for 4 or 5 hours without it destroying me. I was able to go out on the weekends to his shoot and be fine the next day. So I just recovered enough energy from having had cancer to actually be somewhere. First film I ever made, my memory's going, even though it's only been 3.5 years, it could have been Dark Night of the Zomboogies. I think I'd done one just before that where I did it partly on iPhone and partly had a pro camera person with me, where we did Iniquitous, forgot the name of it. It's the one where a guy comes home with his girlfriend and finds everybody in the place has been killed. But if we get back to Dark Night of the Zomboogies, with that, I'd been asked by John Fox, because I've been in promotion for so long, he said, "Look, I've got my Boogie Nights film night, and we're not getting the crowds." I think it had only run for three nights, but the first night, everybody came in. It was like the Academy Awards. They're all dressed up, they're all excited. It was packed. 2 months later, they had the next one, and there's half the crowd, but some of the excitement. The third one, it was rather dead, and they were wondering whether they were going to do another one. And I said to John, well, I've got an idea. Every time I rock up on a set, you know, there are heaps and heaps of extras. You can get a crowd of extras if you're doing a film. So why don't we do a zombie film at it? And I don't think he quite understood what I was talking about, but he ended up running with it because the people John knew, such as Mark Bacchitis, who did Cult Girls, they'd known me for 20 or 30 years, so they knew that I hadn't just rocked up on the last boat like everybody else in the film industry that didn't know me. So I knew, here's a guy that knows how to pack out a place, he's been on stage for 30 years, knows what he's doing, so they ran with it. And we got a crowd, and we got a film out of it too. The second one, I'd seen an ad by Shane Ryan that he was going to do Ted Bundy Had a Son, and it was to be like an anthology where everything was about Ted Bundy. So I got something written up, and he said it was fine to go with found footage. So that's what we'd planned, was found footage. But then I thought, what if my found footage worked, because I'm acting and doing everything at the same time? What if it can't be watched? What if it's crap? So a friend who had a Steadicam rig came along, and everything that I did, he was behind me filming it too, and we got that edited to make a film. One of those two films was my first. 3 is near impossible to come up with. They're just too many.
Sorry, phrase the question and the answer.
Oh, what 3 filmmakers inspired me? Jeez. There's just too many. I know I have to name 3. So if I name 3, I don't want it to be the only 3. But I'm going to start with Dario Argento. Dario Argento, I was seeing his films really from when I was in my teens. In fact, even before that, I think they had 9:10 to Yuma on TV, and I hadn't realised, I didn't know anything about who was who, because I didn't stop and watch the credits. But I found out a couple of years ago that 9:10 to Yuma, the Western, was where Dario Argento got his start. And with the horror movies, it was Dario Argento's that I was going to see at the movies. They even took us for film and television appreciation to see a Dario Argento movie when I was like 15 as a school trip. We went into the city and we watched a Dario Argento one. So what is it about Dario Argento? We go back to 9:10 to Yuma, that's probably more Sergio Leone, but they really create an intimidating environment out of silence in a lot of his films. So it's very much atmosphere. Dario, it's the really intense colour and the things he puts in it, the scenery. There's a lot more going for it because it's gore, not by today's standards, but back then you went to see a Dario Argento film, you were going to see gore. I remember I just couldn't even handle the scene of that woman coming through the glass in one of his movies. It's one that just recently got remade, but I'm getting older and the words come to me like 10 minutes after they're needed. But that's Dario Argento to one side. Then, in fact, I do a call out to all of the Italian filmmakers whose stuff I grew up on, whether it was from the spaghetti westerns to the horror, to later on all of those post-apocalyptic gang movies. It seems at any point in my life, there's always Italy. So getting on to America, Steven Spielberg. Once again, I wouldn't know where to start with Spielberg, but he's been very varied with the things he's done. So Spielberg certainly comes up there as well. But then I've got to come back to Aussie filmmakers. So with this one, I'm not going to name one particular one, I'm just going to name an era. But that golden era of Ozploitation, when you had things like Barry Mackenzie Holds His Own coming out, through to Mad Max, through to Turkey Shoot. Brian Trenchard Smith is one that was right in there, so there I've named a name. But yeah, it's more of an era. So when those were coming out and I was a pimply kid, I knew that I'd always get to see boobs if I could sneak in to those movies. I always knew that anything that I saw in them that I mentioned, that I would get hit by mum because they really played up the Aussie larrikin a lot. If I go through all of these are ones where the storytellers are telling big, over-the-top stories. They're very B-grade. I couldn't understand as I was growing up why so many of my friends wanted to go and see mature movies. You know, like, it was almost like, what, when I grow up I've got to become boring? I mean, haven't you guys read the Bible? There's nothing small in that. You've got giant floods with post-apocalyptic results and people drowning. You've got creatures, angels. You've got a four-headed creature in Ezekiel. You've got destruction. You've got sex. You've got everything. Why give me the Bible as a kid and tell me to read that and then try to tell me, if you want to be part of our society, and be a good person, you've got to eat vanilla ice cream and be very boring and say please and thank you. I probably didn't explain that well, but basically stories with imagination that are huge is what I think storytelling's about. Thinking about my favourite film, it's funny about that because you always think of the worst ones first. It's like I've been taking the good for granted, and I've probably taken my best filmmakers and actors for granted, because what hits you is when something goes wrong and you've got to go fix it up. So somebody says, what was your worst nightmare? Always remember it. Now, I've got one film that's going on American TV. I got told this morning that one of my films is going on American TV next week, and it's a dystopian movie called Parental Duties. I'm not going to select that as my favourite, but it's just come to mind. It stands out as being different because it's not schlocky. We're actually getting into ideas and discussing ideas such as, does the end justify the means? Can you have a just end if your means are unjust? And there's a few twists and turns in that. I've got films that are my favourite after they've come out, and then there's films that were my favourite to work on. So it's very hard to select any. I think when we did Sex Robot, it's not actually my favourite film that came out, but as for people cacking themselves with laughter on set and falling over themselves, that was a favourite to work on. The whole Horror House series was a favourite to work on because we're just working with humour and schlocky humour. So there wasn't a set that we came off there where people hadn't spent 3/4 of the day laughing, and the hardest thing was, hey guys, come on, we've got to get to work, we're running behind, stop laughing and let's get on with it. So they were favourites to work on. Favourite that's come out is Life, Love and Death. I only just realised that now. I like that because there's a twist in it that is just mind-blowing, and because I've said that, I can't tell you what the twist is. During it, we've got some silly stuff. I wanted to have animations, couldn't get any animators to work with me with stop-start, so we actually, there's a bin in there. All I did was move the bin up and down, the lids, like a mouth, and it actually works, and put on a silly voice. Oh, you want to know what's going on? And getting a plastic bag and putting a couple of eyes on it and moving it and saying, go to the light now, and this sort of thing. Animating these things, it was so cheap, it was so silly. The fact that it works is quite fun, but for me it's the twist at the end, a mind-blowing twist that I won't give away. And if you watch it and you don't pick up the twist, well, don't watch any more of my films. What am I currently working on? Believe it or not, nothing. We've been at this massive, fast pace for, I think it's a good year now, that, or year and a bit, that we went into a pace where we were doing maybe an average of 2 short films a month. And that wasn't the only filming. And I said, as soon as we get to winter, I'm tired of being on sets and getting a chill that I can't get out of me until like November. So we decided to slow down and give it a break. Doesn't mean there aren't films that are scripted that we're going to be doing. We've got about 6 of those. So they're sort of in pre-production. And the weird thing is, we're out here filming in the dead of winter and it's 18 degrees, it's like spring. I sort of regret that we're not filming a short movie at this point with this weather. You
No!
Now, when we talk about the Australian film industry and its biggest challenges, this is where I'm going to be putting my foot right in it. I think the biggest challenges are the grants. People are saying we don't have enough of them. I'm saying get rid of them. Take all of the money that we're spending on the local film industry and let's solve the problem with homelessness, or put it towards the homeless. Because all that's happening with the grants is they're being given to people who fit the mould of whichever groups are the loudest. I mean, the way things work politically is we have a government. The government gets into power because it gets voted in, and there's various influential groups that help them get voted in. So they've got to get a payoff, right? And that could be a group that wants to promote women's interests, or a group that wants to promote Indigenous interests. By the time you give them the film that is going to promote the interests of the different groups, that filmmaker is not making a film that the people want to see. They're making a film that very loud groups of people are saying we should be seeing. Well, when your mum tried to force feed you broccoli and Brussels sprouts as a kid, did it work? No. So I say, what we're doing is weakening people by feeding them. You actually do have to have a level of resistance. So you get better by having some resistance, not so much that it'll kill you, but some resistance. And at the end of the day, if you tell a story and it's of no interest to anyone but yourself, you can say, hey, I told my story. I'm saying, go away, don't bore the crap out of me. No, I think the best thing is stop spoon-feeding people. Stop trying to force gender balance. That'll get me in trouble. But the thing is, the best person for the job should go for the job. So if I put out a call and I ask for makeup artists, nearly everyone that comes through is going to be female. I'm not going to hold up the shoot, for 6 months looking for that one male makeup artist or two male makeup artists to get the balance in. Now, there's no problem getting a balance with the actors. I can't see that you're going to have a film without a normal balance of people. But when it comes to who's behind the camera, who's going to be the soundie, who's going to be the gaffer, I've got to go with who's there. I can't live in a fantasy land. I can't take the third best person because I need a gender balance. And you can be offended at what I'm saying, but I was on a shoot 4 months ago, and the first thing this guy did in trying to get his balance was he said, okay, you're Asian, are you gay too? I need an Asian gay. And by the time he got to me and said, oh, wonderful, David, I've now got a Jew. I just thought, I don't want to be in a film simply because I'm a Jew. I want to be in a film because people think I can contribute to that film. We've got to stop forcing this stuff. We have to be able to fend for ourselves as an industry. We have to make the best product we can and put the best people in. Now, prejudice weakens you. If you turned around and you were stupid and you said, we're only going to have white people, you'll have the worst film under the sun because we've got so much talent out there amongst every single community that makes up the patchwork that's Australia. But it's the same sort of prejudice if you're going to tell me that I can't have the best soundie because I've got a gender imbalance and I've got too many men now, and that I can't have a female makeup artist, even though she might be the best at prosthetics, because I've got too many female makeup artists. Best person for the job is the way I was brought up. Now, when it comes to future projects, we do have a number that are scripted that we're doing, but we've also got a number in editing. So if I go to the ones that are in editing, we've got a little documentary. It's either going to go for a half an hour or an hour, and I did it with Dia Taylor, and it's called A Night at the Movies Indie Style, where we took out a camera to a typical Melbourne indie film night, and we filmed the people there, we interviewed them, we showed what's going on. That one I'm really looking forward to. But there's also a feature film called Badass Bunyip. That takes me back to sort of the Ozploitation days, when people were able to get their movies out because of a tax break called 10B. So we've got that, and I'm now told that that's going to come out at Christmas because it's a Christmas movie, which didn't actually dawn on me at the time being Jewish. Well, if I pick up a Christmas movie or an Easter movie or whatever, I pick it up at any time during the year. So, yeah, common sense. That should have been common sense. The Christmas movies come out at Christmas. So that's going to be later on in the year. We're just bringing out the Horror House series, which is 6 hosted horror shows. Originally, that was supposed to go onto TV, and a few people asked me, why did you just release it on YouTube? That's because there's only so much time for marketing, and we've now got short films going out on 6 different shows in the United States, TV shows, that's going out on 10 channels. And we've got short films that are going up on the screens at a number of picture theatres in the USA, England, and also Japan. So these are shorts before the main features. Doing that and holding on to that takes a lot of work. And there just isn't more time to then start hawking around Horror House and saying to people, hey, do you want to show this? So I thought I'd put it on YouTube. That's not the end of it. Everything I've got's on YouTube. It can still go out on something at a later date. But right now, I'm just stuck for time. I've got places that have asked me for films, and I'm here doing this now instead of uploading the films and getting them to this show and sending them off to this VOD. And this time next week I'll say, look, I'm 5 behind, and the week after, well, I'm 10 behind. There just isn't the time, and because there isn't money, I can't pay somebody to do it. Now, what makes a good name for a production company is a very interesting question, because you've got to ask first, what's your production company going to do? And don't tell me, oh, we're going to make films. For instance, if you're going to make romance films, you're not going to call it blood and guts horror, you know. So you've got to know what you intend to do first. Now, mine is just called David Black Productions, because I might make romance in the future, so I don't have to put a blood and guts name in it. But when I look at names of production companies, some people put their name in. That could be a problem. If you look at Weinstein, I think that's how you pronounce his name, the Weinstein Company, it's a bad name after what he did and getting in trouble. So imagine you've got all your films and you've got the Weinstein Company on it. If you put a person's name on that company and you didn't know that they happen to secretly be a mass murderer or a rapist or something that's really bad, and it comes out in the media, you've got a bad name there. So probably better to take something really boring and call it the sky or the sun. When it comes to processes for choosing actors, I don't have one. I was going to a lot of shoots myself as an actor, and I was starting to get ticked off because I never got into any of the films. So I thought, this is terrible. I'm going to be arrogant here and say I'm better than 9 out of 10 of the people that I was up against in most of these films. I saw the end product and thought, right, forget this audition thing. And then some people laboured it further and said, now we've got to have a desk read. I believe you've got to get the person fresh on the spot to get the best out of them. They need to sink into it. So the desk reads, I started to feel, okay, it's good for some people, not good for me. So I thought, well, what process would I like to go through to get onto a movie? And I thought, simple. I just want the director to tell me, Dave, we're shooting in 2 weeks, I want you on. So that's what I tell people. My biggest challenge, I think it would probably sound stupid if I said I have no challenges. There are challenges, but if I can't get through this way to get something I feel I need, I'll go through that way. So, yeah, there's things that I haven't been able to do, but there's things that I have been able to do. For instance, I can't get anywhere in Melbourne. If I've got my films on at a film night, I am getting people, but with a lot of fighting and effort. So I will get 20 people. to a film night. That's the challenge. Melbourne's not going to change. They're not going to have me on most of the things where people are... Let me rephrase it. There are a lot of things in Melbourne where people have been around a long time and they consider themselves the establishment. It might be a film festival, it might be a film night, it could be a TV show, whatever the function is, everything that's established in Melbourne, they don't want me. I'm getting places overseas. So my films are going out on TV in the United States, whereas I can't get onto TV in Australia. And the stuff that's taking me on overseas is bigger than the people that won't take me on in Australia. And it's the same with the cinemas. The cinemas that are running cult movie nights, that are putting my stuff on before the features, they're bigger than the stuff that's happening in Melbourne that's doing the same thing. So yeah, Melbourne and Australia itself by extension could be seen as a challenge, but everything's happening for me overseas. So do I have a challenge? Well, no, I've only got so much time, and it's all being spent on the things where we're getting success. So yes, there's challenges. No, I couldn't give a damn about them. Now, there's a lot of aspiring filmmakers out there. My advice is listen and learn, and then do what you want. Because everything I got taught, so much of what I got taught was a load of rubbish. I came into the film industry and I listened to all of the talk that was on the sets. And I'm not talking about the gossip of this one's really bad on a set and that one is terrible. I'm talking about what their aspirations were. Oh, we're going to do a movie. We're going to put it into the film festival circuit. Oh, George got 62 laurels because he's been on 62 films. He's been at 62 film festivals. And I thought, who's George? My neighbours haven't heard of him. That can't be very big. I mean, look at things and see what comes back. And I pretty well realised that if you're going to be putting your stuff on the film festivals, a lot of these people are spending up to $2,000 because it's $15 to maybe $45 for your entry fee, and your entry fee, and you'll get the laurels that you can put onto your poster. Okay, you've got 62 laurels and almost nobody's heard of you. Let's say you put out your DVD, right? Who the hell ever picked up a DVD because they saw laurels on them? They picked up stuff at the video shops because it had Banned in Queensland on it, not because it had laurels. So there's one thing that people swear blind by. The amount of these different things, and it's online when you go to places that want to teach you, and there's a lot of information out there, some of it good, but a lot of it crap. And they want to teach you and they say, do this, do that, do the other. Listen, learn, and then look at what other people did and see what they got back from it. And if they're not really getting anything back from it, they're just putting their hand in their pocket and really seeing nothing, then forget it. So you're going to have to make your own way in the film industry because so much around us is changing all of the time. The first person that said, get your stuff into a film festival, it works, they might have been someone from 1975 when there was like 15 film festivals and buyers actually used to go to them. You know, all you can do is keep trying, and that's a difficult one. I don't know if anyone remembers this film, Starship Troopers. It wasn't one of the first ones in Starship Troopers, but you had all of the troopers, and they're in this compound, and they've got a force field. And there are numerous bugs, and they're throwing themselves at the force field. And the people inside are thinking, gee, the bugs are stupid. They keep throwing themselves at the force field. There was a plan behind it. They're looking for the spot that was the weakest, and they were sacrificing a lot of themselves to find it. And that's what you're going to be. You're going to try stuff and it's not going to work. You're going to throw time and effort at that. It doesn't work. You're like the bugs that are destroying yourself. But you don't get disheartened. You throw yourself here. You throw yourself there. You throw yourself there. Eventually, you're going to be the one that finds that spot where things are working. And once you got it, keep working it but don't base everything around it, because the world will also change in 2-3 years' time. So you'll always be having to experiment. So my advice is learn what's going on from everybody else, then throw it away, because it's probably 99% crap, and find your own way. Do I believe in giving unknown actors a chance? Well, that's what I've done with all of them. Every single film had an unknown actor. They're unknown to me. I'll ask for show reel, but a lot of people I know don't have a show reel. But I am a bit careful in it, in that they'll start off as an extra. I'll see what they're like as an extra, what they're doing, and then they'll move up to being a featured extra. And then they'll move from a feature extra that I'll give them some lines. So, yeah, I'm giving them a chance, but I'm not going to say to a total unknown. Actually, I have said to a total unknown, here you got the starring role, but that's always been a mistake. But in most cases, yeah, you can work your way up, so you will get in. I know that I'm very controversial, but the thing to do is to look at what I actually do, not the crap that people are saying behind my back. So if you're on my set and you find that it was fantastic, and that your product did come out, and it did go on TV, and it did go onto a cinema, then that's reality. That's what you saw. What somebody else wants to tell you, well, geez, it makes good currency around the film industry in Melbourne to for some people to pretend that they know somebody and that they've got this great big news, and to get a big crowd around them, and hopefully, because they're in the know and some people want to know, then they might get onto another set. It doesn't really work that way. The people I know that are getting onto sets and say, I'm a star, who got there through conniving and all of these things, those films come out and they're absolute rubbish. You know, if you're lucky, they'll get shown once on a screen for the cast and crew screenings. Have a look and see whose films are getting out there overseas. Did the local product get onto TV screens overseas? Was it shown on movie screens overseas? Are bloggers overseas doing analysis of these films and saying, hey, I am blown away by this person's work? If you look at that and then look at me, that's what you'll see with me. I'm not up myself. That's a fact. Go check it out.